Yeah, one of the other things that I saw in the video that I watched earlier was you talking about every rep, and one of the things that I tried to instill in my sprinters when I became a coach is this idea of like every rep counts. You know,
Mm.
if I ask you to do 10 rounds of something or 10 reps of something, I want all 10 to be maximum effort if we're sprinting, right? And I think that's where a lot of sprinters take a while to figure that out. Of like, look, every rep counts. It's not good enough to go 4 out of 10 reps or 6 out of 10 reps. You seem to be somebody who would deliver 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 every time coach would ask you to go. So is that something that you caught on to pretty quickly? Did you at
Was
least
it?
hear the question that I left you with?
Yes. So no, I can't remember it now. What was the
Okay, so
question?
the question was basically every rep. You've
Yes.
got to
Sorry.
give
Yeah.
every rep. So
Yeah.
just give me your mentality and like when did you pick up on the fact that like every rep counts?
Um, I think I probably it was a progression, I think, for me. So when I was first swimming, I actually was such a bludger. I
Mhm.
would constantly miss laps. I would constantly make excuses to get out of the pool. I would, go to the toilet in inverted commas and, have a shower for 15 minutes. I would put fins on if I could. Um, and it took me a really long time to make the connection between if I worked hard in the training pool that I got to race faster. And for me, racing was everything. I wanted to touch that wall first. I wanted to do personal best time by as much as I possibly could. And I think once I made that connection, probably when I was about 15, I think, that I could make that impact in when it came to racing, that was like a light bulb that went off for me. And I was able to not immediately, but slowly start to just progress my swimming. So when I first started to sort of make that connection, I didn't try and do any more sessions. I was only doing probably 3 or 4 sessions at that stage, but I would just actually do the session that I was there for. And I started to see improvement, which was amazing. And then, I slowly started to add a couple of sessions. And then I made my first Australian junior team, which again just reinforced that idea that if you work hard, the results do come. And so at the end of 2002, after making my Australian junior team, I decided that I needed to join a new squad that hadn't had this preconceived idea of who I was as a trainer, because everyone just assumed that I was a bludger, which, because I was absolutely a bludger. So I needed to have a fresh start. I needed someone to make me take responsibility for my swimming, which, Stefan was there to demand that I, started doing at first only 8 sessions a week, but, very quickly built up to 10 sessions a week. And then, so I think the first part was having Stefan make me take responsibility for my swimming, but I took that first step. I made the call to change squads. And then I was able to recognize that every rep, every set, every meter counts when it comes to getting the best out of yourself. And that was a really natural kind of progression for me. And, something that I definitely became obsessive over, even in the 200-meter swim down at the end of our swim sessions, I would try to do perfect technique, because I thought that if I can do perfect technique at the very end of every single session, that is going to get me the edge over my other competitors, because I in my head decided that
Mm.
that's not what they were going to be able to do, and that made me feel confident in being able to compete and ultimately try and beat them.
Listen, it's a differentiating factor between being good and being great, and everything
Mm,
you just touched on there is so it's all the little details that I tried to instill into my athletes as a coach. And maybe it was through observations of spending time with you and watching you and some other great athletes that we had on the team. It was an easy transition for me to be a coach, because it was like, I've seen these people work. I've seen the way that they're great. I've seen how they become world champions. And so when an athlete had that light bulb switch for me, where they went from where you were early to where you were as one of the top athletes in the world, I've seen that transition too in athletes. And athletes are always asking, like, how do I get to the next level? How do I get to the next level? And it's through little details like that, of just doing everything right and finishing with perfect technique at the end of practice, instead of being sloppy and lazy. And all those little details matter, right?
I can't agree more. Like, I think that's the thing that makes the difference, and the willingness to do that.
Yep.
And to not only do it once, but to do it every single day, to do it every single session, to do it every single, not just in the pool, but in the gym, and to do it not just in the gym, but in your run session, and not just in your run session, but in your Pilates session and your yoga session and your circuit session and your abs and core session, and then to like add more things, more than what your teammates might be doing, more than what your squad mates might be doing. It's that willingness to go that extra mile, and to eat the right things, to make the choice to stay at home on a weekend rather than going out partying with your friends. Like, it's not easy. They're not the easy decisions to make. They're the kind of, like, for me at that time, I think they felt really easy because I wasn't interested in any of that. I had a focus, I had a desire, I had a drive. I had this intensity to achieve something, and I was able to do that through those little incremental steps. And the motivation has to be intrinsic. Like, nobody can be there with you 24/7 to tell you what to do all of the time. Yes, obviously there's bulk part of that in your weeks where your coach is telling you what to do and how to do it, but ultimately it's what you do when no one is watching that is going to get you across the line and get you to those goals that you're working towards.